Welcome back. This is video 2 for project 1, which is our cotton dishcloth or flannel. So it's been a wee while since I've got back to this project. So you can see here, it's not exactly a square, it's a little bit hard to see with the camera angle, but it has ended up being this piece 23.5 centimeters wide approximately, and about 21.5 centimeters tall. So I'm quite happy with that. It's not exactly a square. So that's with a total of 36 rows with this yarn. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to go over 2 types of edging. So the first part is the same edging, it's just an option. So we're going to actually take our stitches. So we finished our last row here on the top, and we're going to continue that single crochet stitch down the side, along the bottom through the original chain, and then obviously back up this other side, and to finish back here. And so the option when we get back to the corner over here is to add a loop. So you can imagine maybe for a dishcloth that having a crochet loop off the end here will be quite helpful to hang it up to have it dry. It might make it more decorative, or you can leave it plain. So the first part that I'm going to do today is just the plain single crochet edging, and then I will do probably a separate video and I'll show you the option of adding the loop at that last corner. So that's where we're going to start from. Sometimes it's helpful to add what we call a stitch marker, or you can put a safety pin in this last stitch here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you know where you began your edging. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit closer to the work so I can sit down and do that. Just adjust the camera. Alright, so here we are, we've got that last stitch at the edge here. So every time we work, we're wanting to turn a corner around the edge in these corner spaces. Let me just get that yarn out of the way. I've just had to join it, so there's a couple of tails hanging off the back of my work here where I've joined the yarn. So let's get those out of the way. So we just do a little bit of a different stitch pattern to build the corners, because if you don't change this pattern in the corner, it's just going to gather your work at the corners and it won't sit flat. So let's just get the camera to focus on that. So we've done that last single crochet. What we need to do now is to do a single chain. That gives us a little bit of space for our turn of our corner. So I've turned my work around. Now I've got the side of my stitches all lined up. And then I'm going to work another single crochet into the same space here. So you can see I've already got one, and I've done my single chain, and I'm going to put another one. So that we've turned the corner now. I'll show you once that's done. The other option, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and change it. I'm going to put 2 chains in the corner because I think it's going to sit better if I do. So I've got one, I'm going to do a second on this project. So we've got single crochet, 2 chain, and then I'm going to go back into this corner, and you'll see what I mean. Now, that's actually going to sit. You can see it's, let me just get to the right bit on the camera. So those 2 chain stitches have just helped me turn the corner of my work. So now I've come around the corner. Now, because I haven't done this before I turn the camera on, I'm going to have to work out approximately where I'm going to put these single crochet stitches. So, and that's just about spacing down the side, and you can play around with that depending on how loose the edges are here. So I'm going to work into this space here and do a single crochet, and I'll see what that looks like. And as that's sitting flat, that looks pretty good. So then the next space is this loop here. Gotta get to the lens of the camera for it to focus. So I'll do another one in here, and I'm just going to go down the side and just check after I've done a few. So again, see this part's quite loose, so I'm going to do one into the loose part and then one to that sort of loop with the single chain on the end. So let's just do a few more single crochet down the side. That's looking quite nice, and I'm just going to do a few more and then I'll put it down and have a better look at it. Again, I'm trying to crochet while I look through the camera lens. That one, and then into this space down the side. So I'm going to lay it down now so we can have a better look at it. Again, let's get a little bit closer. So you can see that's the end of the row, gone around the corner with my 2 chains, and it's looking quite nice. It's sitting quite flat, so I think that's going to work down the edge of my work there. So let's carry on down this way. So I'm just going to adjust the camera out of the way a little bit, and I'll get down here. So again, if you look at the edge, let's get the camera to focus in, we've got that kind of open space on one row and then a more closed space on the other row. So as long as you work a single crochet into both of those, one each, then it should sit flat. Now if it's not sitting flat on your work because you haven't got such a big space or your yarn's different, then just work out you might need to put 2 single crochets into this bigger space and only 1 into this smaller space. So it'll just take a little bit of experimentation as you go down the side. Once you've done one side, you'll know exactly what to do on the other. So I'll just keep going down here. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. Just single crochets all down the side. So it's a little bit different because you're working into the side. I've just lost a little bit of thread there. My yarn, hang on a minute. Like I said, this stuff's a bit fiddly. So it's different working down the side and the edges of your work. That just comes with experience. But I'm still working under two loops down the side. Let's just get this side finished, and then I'll turn it around. So, and then I'll show you what we're going to do in the original chain row. And then it'll be starting to look a lot more finished. As soon as you've got an edging on a piece of work, it makes it look a million times better. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, it's looking a bit rough, once you've tidied up the edges, or maybe you could even use a different colour for the edging if you wanted to, if you've got a different colour cotton. So if you've got a pink body of a flannel or a dishcloth, you might like to put a cream or a white edging as an option. And I'll just have to talk to you about your yarn, adjusting and changing your yarn. So I'm down to the last stitch in this edge. Now I want to do my final stitch into this original chain here with a slip knot. So I'm going to do one more, and then that's going to be my corner. So the other corner we did 2 chains, turn our work 90 degrees, and then again that same space where that slip knot is, I'm going to do another single crochet. So we've come around the second corner. You might want to pull it a little bit tighter just to tidy it up. So that's the chains there. We've got a nice turn on the corner. So this one's a lot easier because we've got the loops of the chain left. So we're just going to work our way along this row into the chain spaces. So we're going to go under both loops of the chain that's left and go all the way along. Again, you can see the edging starting to come along quite nicely. Let's give myself a little bit extra yarn. So just make sure with your work here, let's get that camera to focus, that you're going under both loops. That's a little bit fiddly on that one. So just take your time. If it is a bit fiddly, make sure you lift both of those loops of yarn up. Hold them up with your finger if you need to, out of the way, so you can find the space. Okay, because that's, again, we're not focusing on the right part of my work. We want to go into that space there. So along we go again, along this side. That's our edging. Again, just take your time. Might be a little bit fiddly. Your chain might be quite tight too, depending on your tension. If your original chain was a bit tight, it will be a little bit more fiddlier, this one, because it's just a little bit more challenging to get your hook into the remaining space that you've left. So again, that just comes with practice, to maybe keep the chain when you start a little bit looser, because the chain rows can get quite tight and then it makes it difficult to work back into them at this stage. Again, that's experience, but if you need to, as a little tip, you can always change your hook down a little bit smaller for the edging. Again, you might need more stitches. Then it might be a little bit easier to work into those spaces. With a slightly smaller hook, you could go down 1 millimetre or one size, and that might make life a bit easier. So once I've finished this row, I'll zoom out a bit so you can see the overall effect I've done on, well, technically we've done 3 sides, because the beginning corners, actually, I'll show you what I mean in a minute. That final row at the top was my first edging row. Let's see, nearly there. Let's do this 3rd corner turn. There we go. And where's our final space? Here. So 1 single crochet, and then 2 chains, 1, 2, and then we work back into that space again where we put that last single, and we've turned our corner. So let's just zoom out a little bit, or a lot. Alright, you can see. Let me turn it right round this way. So that was the final row I did, and because that was my first corner turn, that's technically the first row of our edging up here. So the measurement I did for the height actually includes that first row, and we've got that first corner. We've come down the side here, it's sitting reasonably flat and tidy down this edge here, and we did our second turn down here. And then I've come across the bottom, so we've just got to go up this side, and then we're going to finish here. So the loop will go onto this corner rather than this one. So I think ultimately I was going to do another row and then do my edging. So, but I'm happy with that so far. You can see it looks a little bit tidier on the edges, and it's sitting reasonably flat. A little bit puckery on this corner, but I think that'll be okay for a flannel. So let's carry on. I will zoom back in and I'll just finish this row, and we will finish off there, and then I'll do an extra video just showing you how to make this loop on this final corner. So let's zoom back in on the work, get to where we were up to. So that's the final turn to come back up this side. So let's make sure we're focused. Alright, so again, it's as we're working down the side, we have a looser sort of loop and a tighter loop, and we're going to put 1 single crochet into each of those. So there we go, 1, And if your work's tighter, you might put 2 in a bigger loop and none in the small loop. You can you just a little bit of trial and error on the sides just to get the right number of stitches. So I could count it for my work. It'll be different for yours depending on how many rows you have crocheted, the size of the hook, and the thickness of your yarn, of course. So it's all to be taken into consideration. Oops. Let's not catch those little fibres in there. And down we go. So, and there's other versions of an edge. I might, you could do an extra row. You don't have to just do 1 row of edging. You could do a second row of edging if you like, to make it a bit fancier. Again, you could have had maybe a change of yarn colour. So I'll do a separate video about how to change the colour of your yarn as a hint or a tip, as a general ongoing thing. But 1 edging row will tidy up your work nicely, and then it looks more professional and it looks finished. Because as you can see, the edges are a little bit bumpy and a little bit rough on your crochet. So just because of the way the stitches are formed compared to knitting, but once you've tidied it up with an edging, then it looks beautiful, nice and tidy, practical, hopefully. Since it's a dishcloth, you could make frillier ones with different colour edging or a scalloped edging. So we can have a whole set of tutorials just on edgings, which is an option if you'd like those. You can let me know if you'd like video tutorials on edgings. Okay, nearly there. Okay, so this is the final part where I need to join my yarn, and that final stitch already has a single crochet from the beginning of that row. So all I need to do now is I need to do an extra stitch in there, and before I join to that I need to do at least 1 chain, but I'll do 2, which is what I've been doing in the corners. And then I finish it. I'll just make sure you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go under the 2 loops of this first stitch here. So I have my last single crochet, 2 chains. I'm going to come under these 2 loops, which this camera does not want to focus on. There we go. And I'm going to do a single slip stitch. So that's just yarn through, hook through, yarn over, and you pull it through, and then you pull it through the last loop on the hook, which is a little bit fiddly. And that's how you finish your work. So that's it for a plain edging. Let's zoom out. I'll show you the finished article. I'll also explain how to cut that yarn off. So it's a little bit, I think once it's sort of stretched out, let's see if we can get out a little bit further. I think it's going to look quite nice and tidy as a flannel. I think that's not bad. It's a little bit bumpier up that side for some reason, but that's pretty good. So I'll just show you, without cutting, I'll just show you how to cut off or finish your work. So if you're completely finished and you've done your slip stitch, then what you need to do is, let's zoom in, there we go. You just do a yarn over, pull it through like a single chain, but you pull it nice and long. And then what you do is you just cut here, so you've got a decent tail to stitch in, and then you tighten this loop here as a knot. I'm not going to do that now because I'm going to do my little loop tutorial. Okay, so pull that chain loop all the way through and then cut up here. So that's it. The dishcloth's finished, and it's just a matter of stitching in the end. So I'll show you how to do that in a separate video. So If you're interested in finding out how to put the loop on the corner and make some crochet stitches and form a loop, then you can come back for a very brief additional video that shows that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.